Today I would like to introduce you to one of my newest projects. It's a little bit different than anything I've introduced up to this point. I'm calling it the Invisible Friends Chronicles. Welcome to Mel's Diary, Unscripted. Let's dive in. Welcome to the introduction to the Invisible Friends Chronicles. So this is a story that is probably pushing decades in the making, really, at this point. So back up a lot of years, more than 15 years ago, I was at a gas station. Actually, it was the last time the gas prices were ridiculous like they are right now. Like, not kidding. Ugh, that's a whole other bag of cats. I digress. So I'm at the gas station, right? And I'm filling up my vehicle at the time. And I'm just muttering to myself, most likely complaints about the price of fuel at the time. And all of a sudden I hear this voice say, "Are you talking to yourself?" And out from the other side of the pump pops a head, and it's one of my cousins. And without even missing a beat, I say, "No, I'm talking to my 7 invisible friends." And it was just this random moment, right? So I go home afterwards and I'm like telling my kids about this, and our one son, the entertainer, that is how I refer to him. That's his pseudonym. He just thought it was hilarious, okay? Hilarious. And he just latched onto this. And for, I don't even know how long after this, he would talk to the 7 invisible friends. Like, that was just his thing. He would talk to these invisible friends. They had names, they had backstories. It was this whole thing, right? And then, you know, he got older and it kind of just faded off. And just, I hadn't thought about it too much in quite a while. And a while back, I was having a struggle. Our son is kind of in a weird place, and we haven't seen him in quite a while. And he's just away from home. And I was trying to write letters to him, and I was just struggling so much. It felt like every letter was just like, I don't know what to say. You know, when you have a kid that's far from home, like, how do you just break it down? And it just feels like everything you say has 14 meanings that you're not intending. At least that's how it works for me. And I'm just like, oh, is this going to make him just miss home too much? Is he going to be upset because he's missing out on this, and that? Like, just all of these thoughts running through my head, making every letter just feel so much harder than it should have. And I was like, I just want to make it more. Like, I want it to be funny and entertaining. And I'm like, looking around, like, what is funny enough and entertaining enough to, like, channel this kind of energy into these letters? And I just was drawing a blank. It was just making me crazy. And then one day my husband made some comment about how, like, you know, you'll be watching a show or a movie or I don't even know what, but there'll be some person on there and they're talking about writing to somebody, and they'll just be like listing off all of this like random news from like everybody they know, and somehow it seems like weirdly interesting even though you don't even care about any of it. And I was like, I need to find a way to harness that kind of energy for these videos. So I'm like thinking, and all of a sudden I just thought, what if I wrote letters from these invisible friends that I hadn't thought of in forever, and I channel this energy, all of these different characters and their different personalities, and have them tell the stories. So this way, maybe I can take something that is mundane or not that interesting or exciting it, but reframe it through their lens to make something relatively benign like so much more interesting, using their specific voices. And to kind of be able to also address different questions, so you just don't come across as this like weirdly needy parent, you know? So I started brainstorming and kind of trying to remember, and of course I really couldn't remember that much of the original stories. Maybe I have it written down somewhere, one of my like 75 journals or something, I don't know, but you know, I don't know. And so I go through and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like kind of develop these. And so I get some of these characters a little more fleshed out in my mind, and I start writing these letters. So I have like one that is from me, and then the author, and then other letters that are from these different friends. And as I started going along, I just found myself really getting excited about the process and really enjoying writing these letters in a way that I just was not enjoying writing the letters before. And it just created this extra depth to it. And I was like, oh my goodness, you know. And I was telling a couple people about it, and they were like, you should like do something with this. You should, you know, you should share these letters and just kind of make it more than it is. And I got thinking about that, and I started developing some more characters, and I kind of found myself running into a little bit of roadblocks, because there were certain aspects about the characters that would never be able to just be addressed in the letters to my son for various reasons, whether it's, you know, something he's not interested in, or it would require somebody to like tattle on that person or whatever. But there were different ways that I could potentially incorporate some of these things, some of this character development. And a lot of this is still very much in the works, I'm telling you, because there are just not enough hours in the day. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so I have started putting these letters on my website. I have a category, I call it the Inkwell, and it's going to be for all of my fiction stuff. But right now it only has the Invisible Friends Chronicles, because nothing else is like ready. Everything, well, even that is, you know, still very much in the works, but everything else is a little bigger, more comprehensive projects, or I just haven't got it on there yet or whatever. But so I've got these letters, and I have all of these different characters now. I have Frank, who is gets the blame. Like he gets the blame. That's just, I literally was in the store one day, and out of the blue, like these bottles of mayonnaise just fell off this shelf. Like I'm just standing there like, what just happened? And there's like this other lady in the aisle, and I looked at her, I'm like, just blame Frank. And then I like gave her like a little bit of information about, you know, the whole backstory to the Invisible Friends. She's like, oh, that's so funny, you know. And then a little while later, I ran into another lady, and she was like talking to herself, and she looked so embarrassed that somebody had like seen her talking to herself. I'm like, it's okay, just blame Frank. Like, you know, you just tell them you're talking to your invisible friends. It's fine. And by the end of our conversation, she just looked so much more comfortable, you know, and it was really great. And I just loved it. And it's such a great dynamic, but it's like Frank gets the blame because he is this sort of absent-minded professor kind of person, but also has like this need to tell stories and make things more interesting, and to kind of bring this sense of humor to the entire dynamic and situation. So he's going to take a small story and potentially just blow it so far out of proportion that it's not even fact anymore. Like it's straight up fiction. Like you can't trust anything that Frank is saying. Sorry, Frank. But, you know, it's true. He's going to take something that is just this little thing, and he is just going to grab something small about it and just kind of like take it completely in a different direction. And then there is Mabel, and Mabel is kind of a little bit of this Anne of Avonlea, old style, kind of going in a Victorian direction kind of lady, very proper, and yet at the same token it's just fueled by drama. Like she just loves her drama. So whatever she's going to tell you, it is going to have a side of vapors probably included in that storyline. Like she's going to worry about you, and she's going to want to mother hen you, but there is absolutely this layer of drama that is going to come into it, whether it is telling you what you should be doing to taking care of yourself, or about something that Frank has done, or whatever. And I just love it. I just love her. She's so great. And then we have, let's see, Colt. And Colt is kind of like what I feel like the entertainer, more of who he wishes he was. Like kind of a little bit of him, like someone who has a lot of shared characteristics and commonalities, but is potentially just a little more. And someone who, you know, maybe has to follow along behind Frank and just kind of deal with some of the fallout of some of Frank's catastrophe, but does not have any of this like random insightful sense of humor that you get from Frank. He is, you put him in a very similar situation, and instead of him finding this random little funny thing, he's just going to be like, I am so bored, this is never going to end. But he kind of has this personality dynamic where he loves a little sci-fi, he likes Stargate Atlantis, but you know, he's also a huge fan of Walker, Texas Ranger, and Chuck Norris, and he's the handyman, and he can do this and he can do that and fix things, and just has this very down-to-earth overall dynamic, but also kind of has that little bit of sci-fi enjoyment to just kind of like branch him out a little bit. And then we have Harmony, and Harmony is so much. She's just too much, really. She is the person that is 100%, you call her up and she's going to be like, you want to go, the word, it's just left my brain. Surfing in Iceland. I am on my way. Like, she is 100% always up for an adventure. The bigger the better. And she is one of my travelers. So I have a more inner group of characters that are going to be not exclusively at home, but they're more home bodies. So they're going to be more regular characters. And then I have my travelers. So like Harmony is a traveler. And I haven't really defined what she does for a living, really. She just is always on the go. And maybe eventually I'll work it out. Secretly, though, I think she's probably some kind of spy. Female James Bond type. With a little bit of a River Song kind of edge. A fondness for Doctor Who, but does not actually like River Song. Just saying. So she is just this double-edged blade of sweetness and fire and crazy. And she's just so much fun to write about. And another traveler is Steve, who is a human interest journalist. So he's going to be traveling, and I'm going to be exploring some of these dynamics with him. And this is where I really find that YouTube has been so helpful, because I'm like, I don't know anything about some of these things. So I will just get on and find something on YouTube and go, this absolutely will work here, and kind of bring that in. So some of the stories will have a little grain of truth to them. So like one story might talk about my niece, the little roar, and how she got her name. And that has the element of truth to it, but then my brain keeps trying to like throw out figure skating and Amazon, and I have no idea where that's even coming from. Obviously that's a Harmony thing right there, but all of these different things amongst the Invisible Friends that are just straight up fiction. And I'm hoping that as I continue to develop these characters and these stories, that I will be able to use what I am learning for my full-length books that are by no means finished. And oh my gosh, if I can finish the one, if it's even half as good as I want it to be, y'all may not read it, but I'm 100% going to read it, because it will hopefully be super good. I'm not even going to tell you, because I honestly have not figured out a way to explain it without giving away a very, very big twist in the middle. And I will tell you, I will just say this about that particular one. It literally took me years to solve the problem. There was a problem in the plot, and I couldn't fix it. I could not fix it. And then one day I was washing my hair, and boom, there was the answer right there in my brain. I got out of the shower. I'm like writing pages and pages of, this is exactly how to fix this problem. So it's a work in progress, but it's not done yet. But hopefully my development of the Invisible Friend Chronicles will help some of my other stories to also progress. I just need less things to do, more hours in the day, a maid maybe, or a housekeeper, something to offset the amount of time that I am able to dedicate to this, because I just have way too many things on my plate there. But the Invisible Friends Chronicles is just something that I've been working on lately, and I'm just enjoying it so much, and I'm so excited about it. And I didn't even know that there was like a fiction-y letter writing, like a literary type of writing, but apparently that's a thing. I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but apparently it is a thing. So that is kind of what I'm doing with it, but it's going to be a little more than that. I'm hoping to start soon a series of letters that will be between mostly the author and the travelers. And then I have a new character that I'm working on developing, who I think is going to be a time traveler, although I haven't worked out all the little things there. And then I'm thinking that there will be a sort of journaling aspect that may develop from that, assuming that I can pull together the time to work on that in the midst of all of my other stuff that I'm working on. But I'm really I'm excited about it. I'm enjoying it. So if you are interested in checking out the Invisible Friends Chronicles, I will try to make sure that I drop the link below, but you can find it on melseeley.com. That is melseeley.com. And you'll want the little tab that says the Inkwell. That is where you will find the Invisible Friend Chronicles. So if you're interested, check it out. To hear that type of stuff and so much more, please like and subscribe. And I will see you next time. Take care.